So ideally, it's a bit like the thing I was saying with ethics previously. It's that all of these things really need to start establishing fairly early on. So if you are the person, primarily the first author is the person that does the majority of the work. So they come up with the idea, they've perhaps obtained funding, they've completed the most of the research. However, it can vary. So for example, I might come up with the idea, and I might obtain the funding, but I might not collect the data. I might hire somebody to do that work for me. Now, they should still be an author if they've contributed significantly, but they wouldn't necessarily be the first author. They might feel like the first author because they've been out there every day collecting all the data, but it was my idea and I have the overall oversight of the research. So sometimes it's not clear and sometimes it is. I think we have already got it shared, but I will put later on. There are various organisations like COPE, and I think the medical, the medical journals have got very specific guidance of who has done what. So you can go to that and say, I've done this job, therefore my authorship should be included. There's often a bit of debate around who goes first or last, and that again we've heard previously about author and journal styles. So in some journals it's really important that you're first author, that's the prestigious slot. In some journals, being the last author is the prestigious slot. So it really can depend on who goes where. The thing that I'm really worried about, and perhaps other people could join in talking about, is we see quite often that a student has come up with the idea, had funding for PhDs, or perhaps self-funded their PhDs, collected all their PhD data, and they've had supervision, but at the end of it, when they go to submit the research, the supervisor puts their name on first. And that, I think, undermines all the work that the student has done. And there's particular inequalities if the student is from a low-income country, but their supervisor is not, or competition where supervisors are under pressure to boost their career and they're trying to take it ahead. Sometimes that's explained as when you become the supervisor, you get to do this, but I don't think it's very healthy. Equally, what do you do if you're in that situation? You know, you're very junior, your supervisor is more powerful, there's all sorts of problems going on there. So I don't want to suggest it's an easy thing to say, well, let's just talk about it and it will all be resolved. But I think you can bring in the ethics here, that if you've done the bulk of the work and you've borne the responsibilities, then you have earned the first author slot. And again, that's where those guidelines support what you do. But I don't know if other people have got things they want to share about the nuances and complexities of it, because it isn't easy.
This is difficult when there's a power differential, like Petra just mentioned. But we do try to get it in writing first. In an actual document, it's a co-author agreement. And I have a model. It came from the book publishing world. Co-authoring is harder than single authoring, but it's often necessary. And the problem is when you're a student who's relatively powerless, someone could either refuse to sign such a document or engage in it, or, you know, wave it away with the just trust me, or and I don't always think that they're being nefarious. I think that they genuinely believe that they're more important, and you know what I mean? They're not trying to be evil, they're just being stupid. And I try not to attribute to evil what could be racked up to stupid. And so I would say that that works about 50% of the time. It works beautifully among colleagues and equals, though. So whenever you're co-authoring with colleagues and equals, don't just say what order our names are going to go in, but try to define by percentage and by task and by hourly contribution, if you can, what's going to go into this. It can be revised, but it's easy to have a good, clear sense. And also what to do if someone doesn't respond. You can say, if after, and I always put time is our friend. If after 3 months we do not have your contribution, we reserve the option to either cut you from the team with thanks and the acknowledgements, or ask that you renegotiate this document or something like that. And it's weird. People really do tend to honor these things a bit more when they're written down. Again, though, going back to Petra's thing, the power differential is just huge. And I don't know what to say except understand that when you're working with someone powerful, they can be greedy and think they're entitled.
In the last year when we had this training session MOOC, one question came up, like how to deal with head of the department, because without doing anything, they become author. So I wrote an answer. I'd like to share that. If someone you are bound to make author, give them some task to do. That will at least qualify their intellectual contribution. You will not feel like you are just gifting them without any without exchange of anything. So it is one way. We understand that particularly in the global south, it happens really often. We must appreciate that because it is reality, but we have to discuss it more often. Sometimes that creates the awareness. There is no way, since I was a victim, when I will grow up, I become big, I will do the same thing. No, we have to keep the discussion going that it is bad, unethical, but we should also involve the people to do something like designing, commenting on the design, commenting on the whatever the comment is, so that it is not just free lunch. The authorship doesn't become a free lunch.